Hey everybody, welcome to Hearsay. I'm Paul,
And I'm Patrick.
and we're going to be talking about sports movies. Now we know that there's quarantine going on, so the sports have been kind of closed off. So we're going to talk about some fantastic sports movies to cover that base.
That's right, sports movies. And sports movies is a huge part of the movie industry. Everybody out there can name at least one. Everybody out there can name their favourite. But if you stop and think about it, why sports movies are so popular, not just with people watching them, but people wanting to make movies about them. Movies are escapism, and sport, in a lot of ways, is escapism too. Also, people look to movies as a way to find representation of things they either aspire to or recognize themselves in or find community with. And that's all true of sport and particularly sports fandom. Also, it doesn't really hurt that sports tend to have drama and conflict, which everybody wants in their script. They do tend to have success and failure, and quite often love and loss. Probably more love and loss in the movies about sports than there actually is in the real world of sports. I hope, anyway.
Yeah, like it's a massive kind of passion piece, as you said, like with a community kind of going together and stuff. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and
So
there's like let's give an idea out there before we're going to give you in this video. We're going to tell you, for each sport, what we think the best movie is, and it's only our opinion. There's nothing scientific here. So we didn't grade these out. This is all just from the heart. But there are kind of a few big categories of sports movies and a few themes. You've got sports movies that are about the actual sport and about the on-field action or on-track action or whatever it might be.
yeah,
Then you've got the ones that are a bit more sports, a theme in there, like Field of Dreams is a good example of a movie where there's a sport, but it's not actually about watching somebody play the game. It's about somebody's love of the game, what it means to them, and it's about taking them through their past.
yeah, it's essentially the passion piece kind of ones where it's like there's a team who are very passionate about what they're doing in the sport, and kind of you see that drive and will kind of going on. So
Yeah, and you've got we can't forget you've got the biopics and stuff, the true stories and that sort of thing, and documentary for sport is incredibly popular. The common themes that we can't get away from, and this is my favorite thing. When I was trying to think, myself and Paul were talking about, well, what do you usually get in sports movies? Underdog stories are incredibly popular. We all love the underdog.
yeah,
But I guess tied with that, the most common themes are either old person still has it, which is obviously people making sports movies for people like me to live through. Like, I still have it.
kind of.
And then there's the young person with an amazing gift that's being discovered, which is obviously, Paul, the films they make for you.
Yeah, like there's also rookie. What is it, rookie in the outfield or something like that?
Yeah.
Which are like young gun ones as well. So
Yeah, and then there's the films about the effect that sport has on people's lives, bringing communities together, or people who are obsessed with sports. And then there's the final thing that we had a little laugh about. There is one more common theme. Will Farrell is likely to do a movie about your sport. He's covered basketball, ice skating, minor league kids football, auto racing.
Yeah, NASCAR. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's a weird one, but that's not. It's not just Will Farrell, though. Will Farrell pretty much has the record of the amount of films that he's been in about parodies of sports. But there's a few others as well. So.
It's gas. I think him and Kevin Costner, between the two of them, because Kevin Costner has some of the more serious sports movies, between the two of them, they must have at least 20 sports movies.
That's true. Yeah.
So what sport do you think is the one, Paul, in your estimation? What's the one that filmmakers like to lean on most?
Oh, that's real difficult because I'd say there's two. There's definitely two, and because it comes from America a lot, these two are like the American pastimes of baseball and American football.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, even my mum really likes baseball. Like,
Oh, that's cool.
like she's also into motorsports, but she like really loves, like, anytime we're in the States and there's a baseball game, there's no point in trying to get her away from the TV in any way.
Oh, she's after my own heart, and she also likes motorsports. So well done.
I'm a failure in their eyes.
Hey,
No, I'm not. I love you, Mum.
you're hanging out with somebody who likes motorsport. That's good enough. That's all the community needs. You listen to me talk about cars sometimes. That's all we want. We just want an ear to hear. I think funny that you should mention that, because they're the sports that have just absolutely loads of films about them. The leader of the pack, though, as not only having loads of films about it, but also the highest grossing film of all time when it comes to sports movies. Which, by the way, before anybody suggests that Fast and the Furious is a sports movie about car racing, it isn't. It's not sport. All right, that's just people in cars and thongs and disco music.
See, this is the thing: is it may have been at one point.
I think it may have had one scene in the entire thing, because street racing is not sport, by the way, folks.
Yeah, see, the thing is that, I think it may have translated into, a recognizable sport, but, that's the first film, and the rest is just, family and Corona.
Family and Corona. The drink.
Corona the beers. Yeah.
The drink, not the 19. But yeah, the top kind of sport for all this is actually really boxing. Rocky is the top of the adjusted box office for all time for sports movies. But more than that, you have got some incredible stuff, which we will go through when we get to the boxing section, which I think we're coming up on soon. But before we go into the boxing stuff, Paul, let's do the little honorable mentions list of sports that you might not think there's actually been a movie made about. And then you go, oh yeah, that was actually about a sport. You want to throw one in there?
Well, let's go for the kind of, I guess, Will Ferrell type parody ones that doesn't have Will Ferrell in it. Is Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Dodgeball is kind of what there's.
It's definitely a sports movie too. Yeah, it's a definite sports movie.
It has all of the towns in which we've said. It's literally called Dodgeball, an underdog story. So it has the underdog story to it as well. The average Joe Jim versus, I can't remember what is it? The
Global Jim, I think.
It was Globo Jim or something. So yeah. which is excellent, kind of thing. And what other ones do you have?
Well, I think a bonus to Dodgeball for having the one I always love in a sports movie, particularly in any comedic sports movie, commentators at the side. So commentators being comic relief, it's always a bonus.
Turning average Joes into the proverbial pumpkin.
I sure do like pumpkins, Cotton.
I think the ones that surprised me most when we were looking at the kind of the honorable mentions, it's bowling. Bowling has had a lot of movies about it, surprisingly enough, but people always think of Kingpin when you think bowling. It was a Farrelly Brothers film, I think, and it was Woody Harrelson and, of course, the great and unstoppable Bill Murray. And other people who were always also great. Now, I'm sorry for the rest of the cast, but when Bill Murray's there, I'm going to mention him after the star. But The Big Lebowski, the amount of people who, when I was talking about sports movies, were like, "Oh, are you going to add The Big Lebowski?" I'm like, "No, it's not a sports movie." They're like, "But bowling." I guess technically, I get it. People associate the film with the bowling alley, etc. So you can really stretch this definition.
Yeah, there is a lot of bowling in it, but it's not about. Yeah, you can stretch it. I think
it's I wouldn't have thought of it if it hadn't been said to me. So what else are we missing there?
We got which goes ice skating, which I, Tonya, and once again Blades of Glory, which has Will Ferrell in it. Yep. Which goes there's probably a host of what is it, the Hallmark channels Dirty Dancing. Slight rip-offs, yeah.
Well, there's a million, when it comes to ice skating, there's a million romantic movies. And this is, now, before anybody starts, commenting that I'm sexist down below, and please feel free to comment down below, maybe hit subscribe and a like on the way, just before I say something that might annoy you. Ice skating, in general, seems to be extremely popular as a love story setting for films primarily aimed at women. The traditional kind of romance flick where ice skating is the background. There's a lot of costume, a lot of love, and a lot of nice excuses for Michael Bolton type music.
And like, it's like dancing. It's very intimate in the sense of constant practicing, constantly holding, and then trust there. So I can see how the
Yeah.
romanticness kind of comes out a
And
little bit.
a lot of being lifted off the ground and embraced. Yeah, you know what? I am starting to think that I am falling in love with the idea of being in an ice skating movie now. So the other stuff, like there's competitive pool, which you mightn't think of, but like one of the great films of all time, Hustler. And then when he came back, Paul Newman came back and did it with Tom Cruise's Color of Money, the follow up, which I'm not as big a fan of. Still a good movie. So to close out that kind of honorable mentions before we go into our list of different sports categories, even sports agents and the idea of sports agency has had its own real flagship film. There's been a few actually, but Jerry Maguire may well be about "You had me at hello" or whatever the famous sweet line between him and the lady whose name has escaped me right now. But Jerry Maguire is about sports agency. Sport is at the center of that movie. So as far as I'm concerned, if we're stretching it to the Big Lebowski, we can stretch it to Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, no, I believe so.
Renee Zellweger.
Yeah.
There you go. All I need is a second.
There we go.
Yeah.
We're going to go on to our main categories, and we're going to start off probably with boxing.
Boxing.
So, exactly, like it's as you said, it is the highest grossing sports film kind of thing with Rocky. I have only seen the first Rocky.
It's the best Rocky.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I do know the rest of them. Oh well, once it gets to a certain point, I do remember. Like I know Dragon.
Drago. Yeah.
It's spelt
Ivan
Dragon.
Drago. He must break you, Paul. He must break you.
It's unbelievable the condition of both men, but the
I must break you.
Because like the first one is Apollo Creed, the second one is it Apollo Creed again?
Yes. Then it's Mr. T.
Then it's Mr. T. Then it's
Dolph Lundgren. Yeah, Ivan
Yeah.
Drago. And then
Then
the
it goes
fifth one,
into-
it's a guy called Tommy the Gun, whatever, who was an actual boxer, I think.
But that one is just called Rocky. Like what's his name? What's
It's
his
just
name?
in Rocky 5, I think is called Rocky 5, and then they do Rocky Balboa, I think is 6.
Because then they go into Creed and then Creed 2, right?
Then Creed 2. So as you can see already, before we've even got out of one movie franchise, you've already got 8 boxing films. By the way, I do recommend watching all the Rocky films. I would agree with you though. The first one is, not agree with you. It's the only one you've seen. You've seen the best, I think. A lot of people would say Creed, but I get that. But you'll see in a minute. I'm going to pick Rocky as my winner for this, even though. There's an awful lot of other films we need to mention, like the documentary When We Were Kings, which is the Rumble in the Jungle, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali when nobody was giving him a chance. It's that it took years and years to make, so it was shot years ago and then didn't come out till much later. It's a beautiful documentary style film. I guess we have to mention the other big boxing Scorsese one. Which I had on the tip of my tongue until I was about to say it. I could have been a
Raging Bull,
contender. Raging Bull, thank you.
Yeah, okay. I was Raging Bull. I like the weird thing about Raging Bull is that I think I saw it like in English class.
Oh wow, cool
Like,
English
as in, like,
teacher,
it was-
whoever you are.
It was that was my teacher. He was just like it's a really nicely played out story and stuff like that, and it is one of the most famous kind of boxing things. So like it was really good. Like, and ever since then, anytime I have watched it, it's been fantastic. So
It's a stunning. It is a stunning work by Scorsese, and it's one of those things that famously, he's not interested in sports and he doesn't want to do a sports movie. And it was Robert De Niro who kept bringing him the Jake LaMotta story, going, "We want to do this. I want to do this." So it was made by a guy who didn't want to make a sports movie, and I think that helped because I think when you watch it, you get a real sense of, like, there's a sense of drama to it all, obviously, and loss. But the brutality and the reality behind being a sports person like that, it comes to the fore with some serious emotion.
no, it really does. So There's nothing else really to go with it.
No, well, that's it. Well, that's why I would pick Rocky, because Rocky has everything. And this is why, folks, Rocky is the boxing pick for me. Paul, what was your boxing pick before I wax lyrical about Rocky for 12 seconds?
No, see, it was also Rocky because it was a very good film. But to even the thing, I will take Real Steel with Hugh Jackman. Just because it also is a fantastic boxing movie, even though it doesn't involve humans. Really,
it's still a boxing movie. It's
great.
It's in a big. It was still in a ring, wasn't it? I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's just robot boxing, and it's literally just about an underdog called Atom. And he fights like Maximilian or something else, like Maximum or something like that. Maximum Zeus or something like that.
What do you get if you mix Pacific Rim and Raging Bull? Real Steel.
It's Raging Bull and Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
The Rock'em Sock'em. God, I'm glad somebody else remembers those things. Well, and I want to wax about Rocky before we close out of the boxing, because Rocky is, in a lot of ways, one of the great, perfect films, not just sports movies. It hits on everything. It's got the in-ring action. It's got the out-of-ring action. It's got the training montage. It's an underdog story. It's somebody, pulling themselves up from nothing and being underestimated and how society views people. It's got a love story. But most importantly, Rocky doesn't win in the end. And that, for me, makes it one of the best sports stories. It has the most iconic fist in the air, punch success moment, screaming Adrian, we're all champions. The hairs in the back of her neck are all going up, and you're like, yeah, it does not matter if you don't win. It's how you fight the fight. Best sports movie message ever.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot, Rocky also has the father figure thing, which is another great sports trope of Mickey. And yeah, actually, and that is it for boxing. Recommendations from here us out. If you want to see Rocky, watch Rocky. If you want to see Rocky with robots, watch Real Steel.
Yeah, pretty much. So what's our next category there, Patrick?
Racing. We've got to my specialist subject. I feel like we should now just hand the video over to this. We won't. There are many brilliant racing films, Paul, but they are bloody expensive to make.
They are very much expensive to race because you have to have all the cars and everything like that. You have to hire the tracks and then all the cast and crew and everything like that. So.
Yeah, it's a logistical pain in the neck to try and film a racing film well. So racing is popular. It's not that the sport doesn't have plenty of emotion, etc. It's that it's actually harder to show some on-track stuff. Now, this year or last year, we had Art of Racing in the Rain, which is a really sweet film that will make you cry because Kevin Costner is a dog talking to his owner in a very, very sweet way. It's a really good insight into how people like me feel about cars, actually, and also how I feel about dogs. But the great racing movies that I'm not going to pick as my number one are things like Rush, with Thor is in it. Thor and Baron Zemo are in Rush. So if you want to see Chris Hemsworth and Daniel Brühl, Rush is well worth seeing, based on real story. There are so many real life events and happenings in motorsport that I could write 50 million scripts and hand them out right now. You would run out of paper before you'd run out of ideas that are worth covering. But that one was really well made by Ron Howard. Ford v Ferrari, you've seen this recently as well, haven't you? Ford v Ferrari was last year's big one.
Yeah, Ford v Ferrari is the Apollo 13 of racing films. That was the best way that I can describe it. So yeah, it's a fantastic film. It's a very important moment. It's Le Mans 66, is it?
Yep. It's actually called Le Mans 66, I think, in Ireland and England, but I still call it Ford v Ferrari.
It's just a better, I guess. Well, no, I guess it's a broader thing for the Americans more than Le Mans 66. But yeah, it's a pinnacle moment within the Ford kind of racing, Ford car company's kind of history and Ferrari's history. Le Mans has plenty of stories to go with it. It's more about the Ford v Ferrari part, you know.
And I think the cool thing about it is, if you're not into racing, Ford v Ferrari is one of the films I recommend, not just because it's Matt Damon and Christian Bale, and it's all-star cast and well made by the director of Logan, whose name Mangold has his first name has left me, James Mangold. But it's a story about the little guy versus the big corporation, and that isn't Ford v Ferrari. It's more about creatives versus corporates. That's even inside Ford. So it's an interesting one. And it's a good example of why I say there's an awful lot more in racing than people think. And that's why there's so many good stories. But if you're going to have fun with it, you want to do a Tom Cruise, which is, you had Top Gun. How can you get Tom Cruise to do Top Gun again? You put him in a NASCAR and make Days of Thunder.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah, it's
quintessential like cheese movie. It's great.
Yeah, like it's mostly about the drivers, like, you know, which is and their kind of like passion for the sport, as well as what can happen to your personal lives in certain senses, and then what happens to kind of on track rivalries, you know, kind of thing. So
yeah, it is of its time, and it's beautiful because of it. I still watch it anytime it comes on TV, just because I like the nostalgia. But sometimes when you want to have a laugh at nostalgia, you do Talladega Nights. You get Will Ferrell to basically take the mickey out of Days of Thunder. He's taking the piss out of it in a great way. It is not one of the all time great racing movies about racing, but I think it captures a lot of fun and pokes fun in the right ways. So I really dig it as a race fan. Also, of all Will Ferrell's sports movies, I'm going to go ahead and say it's the best of all his parodies. But having said that, I'm not even sure if I've seen the basketball one. I have, and maybe it's just that forgettable.
Oh, the semi-pro one.
Yeah. It looked like just sending up 70s hairdos, so I don't know if I even watched it. Mm-hmm. But for the serious side of racing, there's the classic films that are considered, you know, high art by some people. There's Grand Prix with James Garner. Definitely worth a watch. Watch it out there. I'm not going to go into it now, but it's a pensive film, and it's tense, and it's about racing, but it's about a hell of a lot more. And then you have Le Mans with Steve McQueen, the famous picture, which I actually have just off screen, of him giving two fingers, the V for victory, etc. It has the best description of racing for a lot of people.
Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
You can sum the whole film up in that. It feels like a very long film. For people who are into the sport, it feels like a very, very short film. It's masterful. It still wouldn't be my pick though, Paul. And I'm going to get us out of the racing thing. I know I'm rambling. It's easy.
Well, no, you're not really rambling. Like my pick would be Ford v Ferrari. It's a very kind of entry level kind of film, as we said. It's can be seen as many levels. Racing fans can watch it and love it. People who are more interested in kind of the engineering side of it can watch it. So yeah.
And I think if it between it and Rush, you have two great gateway films for getting you into car racing now. But the one that I would actually say, if you watch it, you'll end up being amazed, is the award-winning documentary called Senna, simply called Senna, named after Ayrton Senna. It's his life story, technically. It's a story about him, and it is archival footage. So it wasn't shot as a documentary. He tragically passed away, but it is all of the footage and interviews and things like that have been released. And the filmmakers that made it have gone on to have massive success with, they did the Amy Winehouse documentary in a similar fashion, post-mortem for her as well, so after she passed. Senna there's very, very few people I would consider genuine heroes at a young age. Senna is one of those people that, if you'd asked me who my hero was, his name was very, very much one of the first out of my mouth. And so if you watch it, you see why.
Yeah, a big passion piece for you.
Yeah. And thankfully, everybody else I know that have seen it and have no interest are like, holy crap, that's exciting. That already happened. And I'm like, yeah, why do you think I'm so into car racing? That already happened. It's beautifully made. See it. But if you don't like racing, please take Paul's advice. Watch Ford v Ferrari or even Rush.
The next category is going to be a short one. Horse racing. I'm going to be honest. Have not watched that much horse racing, or any really.
Me either.
Not a big horse fan.
We're doing this category because there are so many movies about horse racing. It would have been an insult not to, but we've realized just how few of them we've actually seen.
Yeah, like my girlfriend's more like she's watched Seabiscuit, which is probably the most famous one. It's an Irish horse who like supposedly destroyed at most of its races.
Was
But
Seabiscuit
it's also
Irish?
like, yeah, I believe so. I believe
shit,
so
that's
that it
how
was an
bad I am at
Irish
all
horse. Like I don't think it's Toby Maguire just to kind of, but it's I think the horse like comes from an Irish stable.
Oh, okay.
If I'm wrong, you can shout at me in the comments.
And
I
you can
don't
hit
really
subscribe
care.
on your way past to the comments down below. I'm doing that every time now.
Yeah. So, which is but Seabiscuit's supposed to.
Yeah, you've got Seabiscuit is, I'd agree, probably the most famous, and then there's like National Velvet and all that stuff, and you've got Secretariat, who I will be completely honest, was a very famous horse apparently, but I used to watch a late night show where somebody had two guys in a big horse costume as one of their sidekicks, and they referred to that as Secretariat, and I didn't get the reference at first, not knowing that there was a real horse. So apparently Secretariat's very good. But I'll be honest, I could only give one pick for this because there was only one horse racing movie that I remembered ever seeing, and it was one that I very much remember seeing, and that's Richard Dreyfuss did a film called Let It Ride, and it's actually about a gambler. It's not so much about the horses or the sport itself. It's about a guy who is having one hell of a weird bad day, and he makes an accumulator bet sort of thing and keeps letting the money roll over and roll over and roll over, and it's about his time through that day. I love Richard Dreyfuss. It's, you know what, if it's ever on, watch it. I wouldn't go out of my way though. That's right, golf, the seemingly hardest sport in the world to make exciting in a film, but actually no, it's not. There are a bagload of golf films. There's absolutely loads, from the Bagger Vance to all sorts of stuff. I've watched a few. The picks that we're probably going to talk about are on the more lighthearted end of the spectrum when it comes to golf. I think Tin Cup is maybe the first honourable mention that I'll give that is not completely lighthearted. But again, it's a sports movie with Kevin Costner in it and Rene Russo. And it's about Kevin Costner being kind of charming more than it is about golf per se. But then you're onto the big hitters like Adam Sandler, also showing up again in a sports movie. And this, for my money, Happy Gilmore is the film that made Adam Sandler a household name. It's the one that really broke him. Because Billy Madison was very much Sandler from Saturday Night Live, not everybody's cup of tea. Happy Gilmore, everybody loves it.
Yeah, I would definitely say that Happy Gilmore and The Waterboy. Big Daddy as well, but mostly Happy Gilmore and Waterboy were the two films that kind of broke him out. Because I also see, this is the funny thing is, Happy Gilmore is a quintessential golf film, but it also has an element of ice hockey in there, so I also really enjoy that.
This is basketball all over again.
No, not as much.
No, that's true. That is true. No, it does. It has hockey sensibilities. It really does, and I kind of love it for its hockeyness, and I think that's what makes it work. If you want to make golf work, maybe sprinkle in a dash of hockey.
He's Happy Gilmore's a very aggressive player, and it's because he's an ice hockey. Keeps saying that he's an ice hockey player all the way through that film. So
we're going to get hate mail now from like actual golf fans, and I think golf is an amazing game, and I played it when I was younger to a prize-winning level. When you have like just the worst handicap, which is when you can win prizes against better people. And then the minute my handicap moved, I realized golf wasn't for me because it became hard all of a sudden.
I have never played the sport.
Really, I wouldn't start now. Like golf's great and all, but hey, golf people, you know what I'm talking about. It's bloody expensive. Like, I'm into car racing and I can call golf expensive. You know how expensive tires are? Yeah, golf is more expensive than it should be.
Also, if you think we're going to get hate mail for this, we're definitely getting hate mail for the Irish or the horse racing kind of like bit where we just go off there and off.
Yeah, true. And because horse racing is such a part of Irish culture, we're probably going to get a lot of very close to home stick for that one. Moving on. Which is go for it. What would
Caddyshack?
It's the pick. It is my pick as well. Caddyshack and Caddyshack 2, to be fair, but Caddyshack the original.
Yeah, no, it's just Bill Murray like the whole Bill Murray kind of group like together is just fantastic.
It is him, Chevy Chase. Let's face it, Rodney Dangerfield's best movie by quite some margin. Best dancing gopher in any dancing gopher ever. But for me, it will and will remain always Bill Murray lining up at the Flowers, getting ready to tee off.
Probably one of the top comedic moments in most of history, in most of film history, I'd say.
Yeah.
You know,
Crowd has gone deadly silent. Cinderella story, out of nowhere. A former greenskeeper now about to become the Masters champion. It looks like I'm a wreck. It's in the hole. It's in the hole.
like Caddyshack. If you haven't seen it, if you've seen Adam Sandler's like Happy Gilmore and you haven't seen Caddyshack, go for Caddyshack. Don't rewatch Happy Gilmore.
No, get Caddyshack into your life somewhere. So that's it for golf. 4 something, hole in one. So that's our roundup of sports movies. I think there's some other quick honourable mentions on our way out the door. We cannot forget the other sports, like the Olympic sports. Chariots of Fire, an Oscar-winning movie that everybody forgets, with undoubtedly the most famous movie music. Dun, 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 dun. If you can make a movie about very stuffy English people running the 4-minute mile compelling, you've done a good job. So worth a watch.
Very much so. And also has in the London Olympics, it has a parody that has Mr. Bean helping with the music.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
Very good.
Nice.
Well, Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah.
So.
I saw Chariots of Fire when it originally came out and I was a kid, and I thought this is the most boring film ever. Then I waited kind of 10 years and saw it as an adolescent, and I was like, my God, this is wonderful filmmaking. So I wouldn't expect a 5-year-old to enjoy it, or whatever the hell I was. But yeah, oft forgotten Oscar winner. People never mention it, but it won its Oscar for a reason. Then there's you can throw in the next one. There's
Cool Runnings, which is bobsleigh, the first Jamaican bobsled team to go into the Olympics, which was it's a very funny film, which with John Candy which was the coach, which was I sadly don't remember a lot of the other names in it.
Oh no, well that's the thing is we were considering having, when we were doing the list of sports to cover, it was like, well, do we need to cover bobsleigh, because Cool Runnings we can't do a video and not mention Cool Runnings. One of John Candy's best works. It's adorable. I love that film. I don't know how many more bobsleigh or even luge or skeleton films there might be, but yeah, it definitely deserves an honorable mention on the way out.
It's Doug E. Doug is the one that I keep forgetting, because he's the one who kisses the egg. He's the one who keeps kissing the egg. That was the one that I definitely wanted to get the name out, because he's like
Doug E. Doug. What a great name. And our last mention in this whole thing is, it's got to be Forrest Gump. How many sports does Forrest Gump cover in that great journey from Box of Chocolates to Run, Forrest, Run? He's not a smart man, but he knows what a sport is, because he played, I don't know, about half a dozen, maybe a bit more.
Yeah, he plays American football.
Mm-hmm.
He also plays ping pong.
Mm-hmm. He does long distance running.
Long distance running. I don't know what the other ones.
Oh, there's got to be other stuff in there. It just, yeah.
But in fairness, he's a great football player, and then he's an Olympic. They wanted to send him to the Olympics, and he played the Chinese. Yeah.
All right, that's the end of what we would likely will now be a 2-part video about the best sports movies ever. I wish I had a motivational speech, but I think you should watch this one for the hear us out.
I've been Paul.
And I've been Patrick.
And we've been Hear Us Out.
See you next time.
Later.